The Roland and Boss SP line of samplers have been beatmaker mainstays for over 20 years. In this series, we attempt to overview various models and highlight what makes them unique and fan favorites for decades. In our first episode, we talked about the simple but charming SP-202, so it only makes sense that we progress to the What? It appears we have something new to discuss, the SP-808. Like the 202, this also was released in 1998, so it's very early in the series, but it includes features that have not been seen in any other models since. So let's give this a go, shall we? Okay, so before we get into the features of this device, let's talk about the physical aspects of it, because it is kind of a beast. It is by far and away the largest device in the SP line. It's also kind of heavy. It's got like this solid plate of steel on the back here. It feels solid. It feels very, very hefty. Yeah, so it's kind of imposing from a physical dimension. It also has a lot of I/O on the back as standard, and you can also expand that with an expansion card. I don't have it, but it can double all the I/O on the back of it. It also has this type of power port, which is, I wish everything had that, because the little adapter bricks, if you have a bunch of those, you understand trying to fit them into power strip can get annoying. But yeah, it's a well-made device. It feels hefty, it feels solid in your hands, and it's fairly heavy, so when it's on a table, it's not moving. So you can bang on the pads, all that kind of stuff. As you can see, mine is kind of yellow on the rubber buttons, but other than that, it works perfectly. So yeah, just the physicality of it, I wanted to show that off because it's interesting as compared to the other models. Right, so let's do an overview of this device. Now, like our other videos, this is not going to be a complete tutorial. That's not really the point of this series. I just want to show you some of the things that are cool and unique about each SP sampler. If you want a tutorial on the SP-808, I'll link a YouTube channel in the description here. The guy's got an awesome series of SP-808 videos, and quite frankly, he's done it better than I could, and there's no point in reinventing the wheel. So, not going to be a tutorial, but I'm going to show you some things that I think are very cool about the SP-808. Okay, so first let's start by sampling something. I'm just going to use my little OPZ here because it's handy and small. So first, let's set up the sampling. If you can see here on the screen, when I push sampling, this comes up, and I'm going to do some settings here. I'm going to have it, this one is the start setting, and I'm going to have it wait for audio to come in to trigger the sampling start. You can change the level here. I'm just going to go with level 1 because that seems to be adequate for most things. Now for something, for other applications, quieter sounds, you might want to mess with the level a little bit more, but for a beat, level 1 seems to be absolutely fine. So I've set that to where I want it. I'm going to hit exit to get back to my regular screen here. Okay. All right, so let's set this up. I'm going to turn off the mic for a second so that my voice doesn't trigger the sample to start. So bear with me for just a second here. We'll sample this real quick. So I sampled to this bank 3, and let's give it a try. It should be mostly a loop. Close enough. If I was trying to make a track, I'd be a little more exacting about that, but for demo purposes, I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so the sampling is more or less the same as the other SPs. You choose sampling, you decide which pad you want it to go to, hit the button again, it samples, and then you can stop it, and then you have your sample. You can have drum hits, voices, synths, whatever you want on these things, but obviously I just put a loop on it. So now I'm going to show you some things that I find unique about this. Now, the SP-202 video, we talked about how its smooth pitch control is one of its main features that people kind of go after it for. For some reason, the other SPs just don't really have a very smooth pitch control, except for this one. This one has a great pitch control. So let's get into it. I'm going to set the pitch to reduce by, let's say 30%. Exit out of there. And I'm going to show you, so here's the regular. Now let's turn on this pitch control. Grimy. I like that. Nice, right? So that's one thing that's really good about the SP-808. It also has a very smooth pitch control, and that can be used for loops, for drums, for voices, whatever you want. It also has a beat matching feature, so if you wanted to alter both your pitch and your beat, you could speed a loop up, slow it down, change the pitch on top of that, so you have two different parameters. So you can call that time stretching, whatever you want. In a future video, I'll highlight how to do that because, to be honest, I'm still learning and I'm not great at demonstrating that function yet. But be aware that you can beat match things as well. The other thing, of course, everybody always wants to hear the effects on these boxes. They all have really cool effects. A lot of the effects are unique to certain machines as well. So let's take the beat or the pitch off. Put on an effect. Whoa, it goes on my voice too. Yeehaw. Retarded. Okay, so let's put on effects. I'm going to go into the effect edit. I'm going to go to one that I like, lo-fi. Now, this is not the same as vinyl sim. We can show vinyl sim here in a second too, but lo-fi is so cool. I'm going to hit yes to turn that one on. It's on my voice now. But I'm going to turn on that beat loop and then turn on this so you can hear what that does to it. So just really crunchy. I love that effect. So cool. Let me show you. There's a bunch of effects in here. So this record or record S, I think it's supposed to be record sim. It's not called vinyl sim on this one. It's called record sim, but it's basically the same thing. Let's do that one because everybody likes to hear that one. I mean, that is just so vibey. That is so cool. A few other things that are kind of different about this one than maybe say like the SP-404sx. There's a lot of like amp simulations. Like this is rock. I'll just show you what it sounds like. You hear that? There's delay and reverb on top of the distortion. So a lot of these you can go in and if you hit Shift FX Edit, you've got all these chained effects. So like right here I've got wah, drive, a simulation of some sort, delay, all in that same one effect. So quite a lot of sound sculpting that you can do to your samples on this thing. And of course you can resample them, do all that kind of stuff. Now, that's all well and good. Let's get to the other obvious major difference that none of the other SPs have, and that's that this has a 4-track recorder in it. And you can see you've got A, B, C, and D. That's 4 stereo tracks that you can record to, or 8 mono tracks that you can work with. And as you can see, you can apply effects, balance, EQ, all of those kinds of different things to all the different tracks. You've got individual faders here to control those, a master. I'm not going to get into all that right now because, again, I'm still learning. I'm not an expert on this part of it yet. And again, these videos are more to kind of highlight the uniqueness of the SP samplers. So we'll do that in another video, but just be aware that's a huge difference of these compared to the other SPs. Is it's a 4-track recorder, so it could be really the centerpiece of a studio if you wanted it to. Maybe not these days because it's kind of limited compared to DAWs, but I think that was the idea. Obviously, it's got the D-beam on it, so let's show you that. It's sampling again. Oh, pitch. So as you can hear there, that pitch can get really low and still retain its smoothness. So D-beam's always fun. This one doesn't have a dedicated filter button on the D-beam, but you can add it through the effects. Yeah, so let's see what else. Obviously, there's a lot of controls here that are more for editing, your recordings, that kind of stuff. It's got this jog wheel that's kind of unique compared to some of them. One other thing that I'm going to call out on the SP-808 that's unique, it uses these old 250 megabyte zip drives. Now, I think it's kind of cool from a retro perspective, but unfortunately this is a mechanical component. It's got actual moving parts for the drive, so I'm just wondering when it's going to fail. I don't think it's a question of if, I think it's a question of when, because again, it's mechanical. It can only last so long. These things are 22 years old, so yeah, I'm probably running on borrowed time right now. I will say mine's been upgraded. This is 250 megabytes. That was for the EX version that came out in the year 2000. My firmware has been updated to that, and that allows me to run 250 megabyte drives. Originally, these came with 100 megabyte drives. The difference is that's about 25 minutes of sampling time on 100, whereas this can do an hour, or so they say. It does not use WAVE. It does not use AIF. It uses some kind of Roland proprietary sound conversion file format that's specifically for these devices. I don't know what they call it, but I've read that it's something that Roland came up with specifically for these zip drives. So kind of interesting, I guess, bit of trivia there. That's about it, all that I want to talk about today. Like I said, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of some of the things that I'm finding really cool. Again, I'm still learning, so I'll come back with more videos on this device in particular as I learn them, so I can share that with you. But yeah, I would, if you can find one of these in good working condition, I would snatch it up, because this is a powerful machine. It's well made. It's like pro quality. I really have liked it a lot more than I even thought I would. So yeah, that's it for this episode. SP-808 Groove Sampler from 1998. Check them out if you get a chance.